Welcome back to The Survival Historian, where the grit of endurance meets the weight of history. Today, we're stepping into a battlefield where the enemy wore two faces, one human, one elemental. Imagine fighting a war where the brutal, bone-chilling cold could kill you faster than a bullet, where your own uniform became a frozen prison, and where simply surviving the night required as much strategy as any tactical maneuver. For years, soldiers faced this reality, their bodies betraying them in temperatures that turned flesh to stone. But then came a revolution, a single integrated system that fundamentally altered the equation of winter warfare. This is the story of the M1943 combat service uniform, the unsung hero that transformed how armies fought in the frozen hell of winter campaigns. Winter's silent killer, the pre-M1943 reality. Before 1943, winter was arguably the most efficient killer on the battlefield. In the early campaigns of World War II, from the Aleutian Islands to the Eastern Front, soldiers dropped not from enemy fire but from frostbite and hypothermia. Medical units reported casualties from cold exposure that often exceeded combat wounds in certain theaters. The bitter truth was that the standard issue gear was woefully inadequate for sustained winter operations. Picture the soldier of 1941 wrapped in heavy wool greatcoats that became waterlogged death traps the moment they encountered snow or freezing rain. These cumbersome garments absorbed moisture like sponges, adding crushing weight to every movement while simultaneously robbing the body of critical warmth through evaporative cooling. Underneath, thin cotton uniforms provided virtually no insulation, and the layers in between were a desperate patchwork of personal ingenuity, blankets tucked into jackets, newspapers stuffed into boots, anything to create a barrier against the relentless cold. Footwear was perhaps the most catastrophic failure. Standard-issue leather boots designed for temperate climates became rigid ice blocks that cut off circulation, leading to rampant cases of trench foot and frostbite, so severe that thousands of men lost toes, feet, and sometimes entire limbs without ever facing direct enemy action. The Aleutian campaign told the story in stark terms. American forces fighting in the fog-shrouded islands faced temperatures that plunged well below freezing, combined with constant dampness that penetrated every layer. Soldiers literally froze in their positions, unable to maintain vigilance or combat effectiveness. The existing uniform system wasn't just inadequate, it was a strategic liability that turned every winter engagement into a desperate race against the elements. What emerged in 1943 was nothing less than revolutionary. The M1943 wasn't merely a new coat or an improved pair of trousers. It was the first truly integrated combat uniform system designed around the concept of adaptive layering. At its core was the iconic M1943 field jacket, constructed from wind-resistant cotton sateen treated with a water-repellent finish. This outer shell represented a fundamental shift in thinking. Instead of trying to create one impossibly warm garment, the designers created a breathable protective barrier that could be combined with other elements to match conditions. The genius lay in its modularity. Inside the jacket hung a detachable pile liner made from synthetic fleece, a material that retained warmth even when damp, unlike wool. Soldiers could wear the shell alone during exertion or physical activity, preventing the dangerous buildup of sweat that had plagued earlier uniforms. When temperatures dropped or activity ceased, they could button in the liner within seconds, creating an insulating barrier that trapped body heat. The matching M1943 trousers followed the same principle, with their own removable liner system and a design that allowed freedom of movement unheard of in previous winter gear. Every detail reflected hard-won lessons from the field. Large cargo pockets, positioned for easy access even with gloved hands. Adjustable cuffs that could be tightened to prevent snow infiltration. An integrated hood that could be rolled and stored in the collar, always available but never in the way. The entire system weighed significantly less than the wool greatcoats it replaced, yet provided superior protection across a far wider range of temperatures and conditions. The true test came in the winter of 1944, in the snow-choked forests of the Ardennes. During the Battle of the Bulge, American forces wearing the M1943 system demonstrated capabilities that would have been impossible just years earlier. Where previous winter campaigns had seen armies grinding to frozen stalemates, soldiers in the M1943 maintained mobility and combat effectiveness in temperatures that dropped to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. The tactical advantages were immediate and profound. Infantry units could execute rapid flanking maneuvers through deep snow without the exhaustion that came from hauling waterlogged wool. Soldiers on watch could maintain alertness through long winter nights because they weren't constantly battling hypothermia. The ability to shed or add layers meant that men could transition from static positions to assault operations without drowning in their own sweat or freezing when they stopped moving. This wasn't just comfort, it was combat readiness, measured in hours of sustained fighting capability. German forces, ironically fighting on the defensive in their own winter conditions, often found themselves at a disadvantage. Their winter gear, while effective in static positions, couldn't match the versatility of the American system during fluid battlefield movements. The M1943 had transformed winter from an insurmountable obstacle into a manageable tactical variable. 80 years later, the M1943's influence remains embedded in virtually every cold-weather garment system in use today. The concept of the layered modular approach became the foundation for all subsequent military uniform design and revolutionized civilian outdoor gear as well. Modern expedition apparel, technical ski wear, and mountaineering systems all trace their lineage directly to the principles established by this World War II innovation. But beyond the technical specifications and tactical victories, the M1943 represents something more fundamental about human survival and adaptation. It reminds us that in extreme environments, whether on a frozen battlefield or in the backcountry wilderness, survival depends not just on toughness or willpower, but on intelligent design and preparation. The soldiers who fought in the Ardennes survived not because they were tougher than their predecessors, but because they had tools that matched the challenge they faced. That lesson resonates across every survival scenario. Understanding your environment, preparing appropriately, and having systems that adapt to changing conditions can mean the difference between endurance and catastrophe. The M1943 gave soldiers something more valuable than warmth. It gave them agency in an environment that had previously rendered them helpless. It restored their ability to fight, to move, to think clearly, instead of merely struggling to survive the night. In doing so, it proved that the human capacity to overcome extreme environments isn't just about individual fortitude, it's about collective ingenuity and the willingness to learn from harsh lessons. If you found this deep dive into survival, innovation, and military history compelling, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with anyone who appreciates the intersection of human endurance and historical turning points. Subscribe to The Survival Historian for more stories that reveal how our ancestors adapted, endured, and occasionally revolutionized their approach to the harshest challenges nature and warfare could throw at them. Because understanding how they survived doesn't just honor their memory, it prepares us for our own battles against the elements. Until next time, stay curious, stay prepared, and remember, survival is as much about smart systems as strong will.